She's currently traveled to over 20 countries. She volunteers when she's abroad. She's a content creator. She's also the author of a book that's now on Amazon. It's called Hues of Africa, A Journey Between the Lines, which is inspired by her love of coloring, and she aspires to globetrot throughout the continent of Africa as a traveling social worker. So Tiffany, I'm going to go ahead and pass it off to you.
Okay, good evening, everyone. I am super excited to have you on and super excited to be talking about a topic that I am super passionate. So I hope you guys enjoy this. Go ahead and put your questions in the comments and we'll be back for question and answer later. But we are going to get straight into it because I want to be respectful of your time. So let's get straight into it. But before I start sharing the screen, I just want you to know that everybody is awesome. So we can't high five anybody, but tell yourself that you are awesome today and give yourself a pat on the back just for being here tonight. So let me go ahead and share that screen. Okay, so let's get straight into it. So I can't see any of y'all, so I'm going to have a little help from Leah. So we'll be back with you in a second, okay? So this is Solo Travel Safety 101. So very basics. I see a lot of people already have traveled solo before. So some of this stuff may be new and some of it may be old to you, but it'll still be a fun night, okay? And again, my name is Tiffany Hurd. So I am the founder of Sweet Tiffy's Inspirations, which is a blog that I started about 5-6 years ago. I am a proud alumni of Howard University. That is a historically Black college university in Washington, D.C. So if there are any Washington, D.C. people, shout out to you right now. My background is in social work, and I am a mental health advocate. In the times that we are living in today, mental health is super important. And one of those ways that I keep my mental health in contact is simply by traveling, okay? So I'm making sure I get it in. As Leah said, I am the author of a book called Hues of Africa, Journey Between the Lines, and it's actually a coloring activity book, and it talks all about Africa. It talks about hair, language, music, and then it also goes into the separate countries. So let us know in the chat box, where have you been to Africa and where was your favorite place? Also, I am a passionate solo traveler, as you can see. I'm very excited. I don't know if you can see my smile right now, but I'm excited about this topic, and I hope you are too. I'm also a blogger and a YouTuber. YouTube has been fun. And I also plan group trips. We have gone to Ghana, Colombia, and we are focusing on Mexico this year. And that little last tidbit, I'm a fashionista. I love to travel. You will usually see me in my bathing suit, making the beach my runway. So that's a little bit about me. So let's go ahead and get into our topic for tonight. So these are some of the things that we're going to cover. Some stuff may be on the screen. I may touch on it or I may not, but I want it to be here so that you can visually see. But I'm just going to be talking to you. It's going to be like a very casual conversation of the solo tips and what I do while I'm traveling solo. Okay. So the joys of solo traveling. So let me tell y'all, okay, my motto is I'm not waiting on anybody to travel, okay? So I respect the fact that people may have kids, they may not have money, they may not have the time. I don't care about any of those things. I'm going to go on my solo trip. Because I find that if I wait on other people, I may never do anything, okay? And so some of the things that I love about solo travel is just the freedom to do whatever you want to do whenever you want. So for example, if I decide, oh, I want to go lounge around at the pool all day, I don't have to consult anybody to do that. I'm like, I'm laying down, I'm chilling, like this is what I want to do. So I just love the fact that I can do whatever I want, however I want. And I also say, for example, this photo was taken in Tulum, Mexico. And so I was walking down the street and this guy was like, hey, how are you? And I turned around to look to see who he was because I didn't know who he was. And I literally sat with him and his friends for about 2 hours eating tacos. And I mentioned that because if I were with my family, which funny enough, they had just left a couple of days ago, there's no way they would want to chill and eat tacos. But for me, that was cool. As a solo traveler, you can do that. When you're traveling with other people, it's not always possible. The other thing is, it's easier to meet people. Just like I said, that was so simple to meet people, and so I love it. The other thing is to get time to yourself. We're often busy. We have jobs. We have kids. Maybe we're family people. There's just so much to do, and somebody always needs you. And I feel like solo travel, you get a chance to just woosah. You get a chance to breathe and relax, and it is absolutely awesome, which is why I enjoy traveling solo. Okay, so the number one question people ask is solo travel safe? I was at a pool party this Saturday and somebody was like, "You travel solo?" I'm like, "Yes, all the time." They were like, "No, but it's not safe." And I'm like, "Well, have you solo traveled before?" And they're like, "Well, not really." Okay, so how do you know it's not safe to travel if you've never done it? And a lot of people mention like, "Oh, what if there's something going on in this country and that?" I live in America. I'm not sure where everybody is from, but there's a lot of stuff going on in the States. And so I feel like I have to live my life. Like, I can't be afraid of what could happen. Like, I just don't want to be in that atmosphere. I want to be able to go and travel. And I think whether you're in the States or whether you're traveling, you always have to take precautions, right? So I'm going to take those same precautions that I would take in the US that I would there, and we are going to travel. So again, is solo travel safe? The answer is absolutely. Okay. And don't let, because a lot of time, have you guys ever heard that scenario where they say you're sick? You can have a cough, but by the time you get through with Google, you have a disease, you're about to die, and different things like that. So I always say don't get into your head too much about solo travel because you may talk yourself out of it. So definitely safe to do. And this picture right here is me in Rosarito on the beach. So has anybody ever been to Rosarito? And have anybody ever been horseback riding? I've also been horseback riding in Mexico, and I was like, oh, I don't know if I need to ride horses for a very long time. But let me know if you're a horse rider, and if you've been on the beach doing that.
Okay, really
so
quick, Tiffany.
yes.
I'm wondering if you can expand your presentation, because right now we see like the Chrome window as well. Okay. What is your presentation in? Oh, it's in a Google Doc, huh? Hovering's not doing anything, huh?
So I just push. Okay, let me go back. So is it still showing small?
It's just that we could see kind of everything around it. But I don't know if you can have the presentation expand to fit the whole screen.
Okay. Ooh, I don't really know because I closed all the browsers, so you can see the stuff in the background as well.
No, we can just see like the Zoom call in the border, but if not, that's fine. I just didn't know if you wanted that there or not. But if it's too difficult, no worries.
I'm so sorry, y'all. I'm so sorry. I don't know how to do that.
Don't worry about it. No, it's fine.
Okay, I'm so sorry, y'all. But we'll be able to, Leah, we can be able to get this out to them later on as well, correct?
Yeah, 100% we will. Yeah.
Okay, so I apologize, everyone. Okay, so how's everyone feeling though? I hope everyone is okay as we're going forward. Okay, so responding to unsupportive people. So if you all can see this picture right here, I am on ATV in Colombia. And the sign says, "Hey, mama, don't worry. I'm safe. Love you." And I did this as a joke because my mom is like super paranoid. Like, why do you have to go? Like, I don't understand it. And on this particular trip, it was my first international trip to Colombia. And like, I literally didn't tell my dad until I got to the airport. I was like, yes, so I don't know if you knew, but this is a solo trip. So he's like, "Tiffany, you're a young woman. You don't need to be traveling." I said, "Okay, Dad, I'll talk to you later." So like, you're going to get people, and these could literally be your parents. And I use them as an excuse all the time. Just because they would prefer if I stayed at home. And I'm like, nah, I think I'm going to go. So I feel like the way to respond to them is like, hey, I understand. As a social work background, I would acknowledge how they feel. I was like, be understanding. I understand that you think it's unsafe, but this is my decision. I'm going to go. I'm going to make sure that I, check in, different things like that, but I am going to go. So I think a lot of times you have to take autonomy, even with those people that you love. Okay. And then people always say, well, what if this happens? And what if this happens? Well, you're right. Anything could happen, but I'm not going to stay at home just because the could or would things that may happen. Okay. So definitely making sure that you are talking to them through the feelings, but not letting them talk you out of that particular trip. Okay. And let me know, what are your experiences with people stopping you from solo travel? I would love to hear your responses. Okay, so next we're going to talk about is just researching your destination prior to you going on trips. For example, who has been to Cuba in the Zoom call today? So if you know well, Cuba is now open again, but this was a couple years ago. Cuba did not have ATM. So at most places, Europe, Africa, I can get currency out, but in Cuba, that wasn't the case. And so I've seen a lot of people say, oh my God, I was stuck. I only brought my cards to Cuba. And I'm like, what? That means that they did not research Cuba at all before they went to the country. So that is my tip. Make sure you're researching every little thing before you go. So a good thing to look at is the travel advisory on the travel.state.gov website. They do have things from normal precautions to do not travel. I will say you choose what you want to go based off of these travel advisories, because I heard like last year the US was on the travel advisory when they were telling people not to come here. Which I thought was like, wow. So, look at it with a grain of salt as well, but also be conscious of what they're saying. Google is your best friend as well. Google these things before you're going. They have guidebooks that you can look at. I am a big proponent of like TripAdvisor. I spend hours researching before I go, and TripAdvisor is a great place to go. They also have the Green Book Global. That's for travelers of color. And as a blogger myself, when I'm organizing a trip, what do? I go look at blogs because they're personal experiences. Pinterest is a great way because it's also a search engine like Google. I'm a YouTuber now, so I come back and I post and I give tips on my YouTube videos. So look at other YouTube videos, what to do in Costa Rica, what accommodations to stay in. Like there's so much information that there's no reason why you shouldn't know before you go on these particular trips. And also Instagram, you're scrolling on Instagram. Where's the best place to take a photo? What's the best food to eat? Like there's so many different research opportunities for you to do before you go. And then also one of my other favorites, I absolutely love Facebook. Let me know if you love Facebook. I'm addicted to Facebook, y'all. I will admit this. I do need help. So if you got tips on how to become unaddicted, you can put that in the chat box as well. But in these travel groups, there's groups like Girls Love Travel, Nomadic Travel Tribe, wonderful. And so I remember a couple years ago in Nomadic, they had something called the bat signal. And so the bat signal, you would say, hey, I'm going to be in Colombia on March 24th through the 30th. Who's going to be around? And so I've met wonderful people by posting that in these particular groups. So definitely utilize the Facebook groups. And then lastly, we already talked about Google. Google, go ahead and put whatever you want in 2 seconds, an answer will come up for what you need, okay? So our next one is sharing your travel info. So what type of info are you exactly sharing? This video was of me in Colombia. As you can see, I was super excited to see the pink sea in my pink dress. So there you have me jumping up. I try to do this in all my destinations, super fun. Let me know if there is a particular pose that you do while you are traveling. So number one is sharing your flight deals. Are you on American? You're going to land at 5:40 a.m. Just literally send an email to that one person. So I would say either find between 1 to 3 people that you can actually send all this information to, okay? So your accommodations, where are you staying at? What's the name? If anything happens, they can say, oh, okay, I know that she was staying at this place. I know they were going to stay here for 2 days, 3 days at another place. So that would be your accommodation, your itinerary. Where are you going to be going on those days? If you don't have something typed up, because everybody doesn't, let me know in the chat box. Are you guys like type A where you feel like you have to type everything and put in a Google Doc, or are you just kind of free flowing? Even if you're free flowing, you can still tell people, hey, I'm going on this excursion for the day, okay? And also if you have the contact photo, or like, hey, let's take a selfie. They don't know what you're doing, but you like, I'm about to send it to my mama so they know that I'm going to be safe. So, do things like that just so people know what's going on. And so how do we keep people updated? So I don't know if everybody in the room has WhatsApp. I use WhatsApp because I have friends international. So I use it when I'm traveling, and I use it still when I come back home. So I absolutely love WhatsApp. A great place to send people messages. If you're taking Uber, let people know about your account. You can also share your location on Google Maps. Like, our smartphone is really, really smart, and there's so much that we can do on this phone. There's also apps like Be Safe where you can share your location with like your family, your friends, and it's kind of like you can use your SOS button. So people say, well, how often do I have to share? Like, and so I think a good rule of thumb, and obviously you can decide what's good for you. I would say either once or twice a day. So maybe in the morning time, I'm like, hey, mom, I'm going out on this tour. I'll check in with you later on tonight. Or if you say, hey, I'm gonna check in the morning, but I may not check in later on. You decide. You know what the relationship with is. Those out of those three people you're choosing to share your information with. Okay. Okay, so packing light. So this one is always a topic. So are you team carry on or are you team check in? Please let me know in the comment section which one you prefer. So these are packing cubes. I love packing cubes. Like packing cubes are a saver. These packing cubes are actually the carry on type, but you can put so much stuff and it keeps it organized. So I know where my shirts are, where my pants are, different things like that. And I feel like you can fit more into your suitcase with packing cubes. So if you're packing light, you don't have the extra luggage fees. I kid you not, I organized a group trip to Ghana and like two of the women had like 2 suitcases and they had to pay, I almost want to say it was like 200 going and 200 going back, all because their luggage was way too much. The first time I went to Ghana for study abroad for 6 weeks, I bought 2 suitcases. Before we even left the States, they had broken my suitcase at the airport. And honestly, I never wore all of those clothes that I brought with me. So I have learned less is better. You can wash your clothes in your destination. Or the other thing, I love shopping in Ghana. So I want to save room so I can bring me my African attire back and different things like that. So those are some of the reasons why we should pack light. Also, you're able to move around. You're a bit more mobile. Funny story, I was actually coming back from Ghana several years ago and I got stuck in a snowstorm in New York. So all of my NYC people, you guys know about snowstorms. I was taking the mega bus, but I didn't have cash. So I'm trying to use my credit card. What rolls off in front of me, y'all? The mega bus. I'm thinking, oh, I can catch the next mega bus. There was no other mega bus. There was a snowstorm coming. So I literally stood in the middle of Manhattan and cried, y'all. But I say all that to say I did find a place to stay, but I had to literally take my luggage in the snow to my destination. I think I was going to Harlem. But the point is, luckily, I didn't have all this luggage on that particular trip, or I probably would have been in trouble. So then as less things to think about, let's say if you have to rebuy something, if your bag was stolen or anything like that. So those are just my cases for packing light. So you can do whatever you like, but just try it. Because some people say, I can't do it. I'm like, yes, you can. I said, if I can do it, I think anybody can do it. So tell me, what team check-in or team carry? Let us know in the comment section. Okay, so these are some of the safety items. Again, we're talking about safety. So what are things that I'm going to bring that's going to make me feel safe? So they have door stoppers. So I've heard of people saying, oh, somebody got into my room. The door stopper, you put that in on the inside. So you know that if anybody's trying to come in, they will not be able to come in. So if you look at this picture on my right side, is a picture of a whistle. And so these are like noise makers. So if you guys, we all been to school before, and you guys remember the green board in school, that I may be aging myself. But if you've ever heard somebody take their nails on a board, that's such an annoying sound, right? Well, this whistle is like a shrill noise that is supposed to bring attention to people, right? I've also so that's a good thing to buy. And these are things that you can buy on Amazon. I stay in a lot of hostels, so make sure you bring a lock for your backpack or your suitcase. Sometimes they have it there for sale, but if they don't, you want to make sure that you have it. Bringing your money waste wallet. I bought a money waste wallet from Target, and it's something that you can literally like put under your clothes. And so sometimes you may go to a place like in Barcelona. Anybody been to Barcelona? They always say like, watch out for pickpocketers. So if you have that little money wallet that's underneath your clothes, then those are things that you don't have to worry about. Another thing is an anti-theft travel backpack. So let me know if you have an anti-theft travel bag. Let us know what brand you use. And those are simply like, you know, if somebody tries to cut or something like that, they won't be able to get through those anti-theft travel backpacks. So these are just things that you are being able to take with you. Charger and a portable battery. That seems like, oh, we already know that, but I often forget my portable battery. You need to keep your phone charged up in case of anything happening. There's an emergency app that you can use. And so there's so many apps out there that you can use on your phone, but your phone will have to be charged up, right? And then lastly, try not to bring valuable jewelry. So I know you love your, 15-carat ring, but you may not want to take that on your trip. Like you just don't want to bring much attention to yourself. So let me know if you bring your jewelry with you or do you keep it at home? Let us know what you do. Okay. So important document safety. This is me holding my handy dandy passport. So make sure that you make physical and virtual copies of your documents. I hear all the time people say, I lost my passport. Well, did you make a copy of it? No. Well, at least if you have a copy, you can still be able to show the authorities or like this is you or different things like that. And so you can email them to yourself or make sure somebody else has a copy. So in case anything goes on, then they can send those to you. Making sure you carry your passport. And you may want to keep your passport sometimes inside the room so that when you're out and about, you don't lose it. You can have your driver's license. You guys also can use the passport card. I recently did a video on the passport card versus the passport book. So that's another form of ID as well. And making sure you have your travel itineraries. It could be a paper form or you can use these things. There's an app that I love. Now, of course, I'm drawing a blank on it, but I love this app because it keeps all of your itineraries in one place. Having your credit card information and different things like that. So those are some of the document safeties that you need that are going to help while you are traveling. Okay. So let me know what type of IDs do you use? Do you use your passport card? Do you use your passport? Let us know in the comment section. Okay, money safety. So this one is a very, very important one. The number one I have is tell your bank while you're traveling. So let me know if you are let me know if you are like me. Have you ever forgotten to tell your bank that you're going out of town? So recently in Colombia, I'm trying to pay, I don't know, the room was, over $1,000 and they would not allow me to pay. And I just didn't understand. I'm like, well, why aren't you guys allowing me to pay? Well, the bank, of course, thought it was like fraud because it was so much money. So I failed as a solo traveler who's been traveling all the time. I failed to tell my bank that I was traveling. And so that can cause issues. So make sure that you remember to tell them, okay? So use your credit card. So anybody have travel cards? So tell me in the comment section what travel card you have or which one you think is the best. So I have the Chase Reserve or the Chase Sapphire, I believe. And so if you're using your credit card, like let's say you're using your credit card to like book your trip or different things like that, some of your travel credit cards have insurance on them. So if you're using that card, you're able to get the insurance if anything goes wrong, okay? So make sure that you are carrying those. Make sure you're carrying a spare card. So maybe you have your debit card here and your travel credit card here. It's like you want to have as many different forms of payment just in case anything goes on. But try not to carry as much cash. Try to only get like a little bit out. So that way, if anything happened. Now, we're not saying anything will happen, but if it does, we're just trying to be safe in these particular instances. And then also that person that you're sharing that travel info, tell them how they can get money if you need it. Like maybe you did have maybe I can leave a debit card with my mom, or I can leave her extra cash in case she has to send me money through PayPal, Venmo, Western Union, or different things like that. Okay. Okay, so transportation safety. If you can see, I love ATV riding. So if there's something fun that you always do on your trips, please let me know. What is that thing that you always do on your trips? I seem to always find an ATV somewhere because I'm scared of motorcycles. So I don't think I want to ride a motorcycle, but these things right here make me feel like I'm in control. Wind is blowing through my air and I'm just cruising and chilling on these ATVs. So let me know what's that thing that you do. So again, we already kind of talked about this, but sharing your location on Google Maps, sharing your Uber ride shares, taking public transportation in the daylight hours. And some of these countries have very great transportation. Anybody been to Colombia, Medellin has a great train option that you can use, and take those during the daylight hours just to be safe. When you're taking taxis, make sure that it's like maybe a taxi stand or at the airport, because you would never want to get into like an unmarked car or different things like that. Of course, we've all seen the movie Taken, And we don't want to be on taken, right? And we want to make sure that we are safe when we are getting into our different transportations, okay? And then lastly, ask a local, what neighborhoods is it safe to walk around? Sometimes they'll be like, and don't walk over there, but maybe you can walk over here. So I always say it's a good idea to ask those particular questions, okay? So accommodation safely. So we already talked about reading reviews. I don't know about y'all, but I can read reviews for hours. Like I'm trying to make sure that did they say something about the room that I missed? Is it something like, oh, there's like 100 stairs to get to the top, or they did see a roach or something like that? Lord forbid we've seen these things, but you just want to read those reviews because usually most of the time people are putting their honest opinion of different things. Try to book in a central location. So when I was in Tulum, Mexico, I rented an Airbnb and it was literally in the middle of Tulum where all the restaurants were at. So if I was hungry at night, it took me 5 minutes to go where the action was at. Those are the type of places that you're looking for. You don't want to be far from everything. So try to like avoid the rooms on the first floor in case anything happens. Maybe keep your windows like that night. If you're high up, it may not make a difference. Keep your room number and location private. You don't have to let people know where you're staying at, or you don't have to let them know exact, like, oh, I'm staying in 522. Yeah, try not to say those things. Keep your belongings tidy and locked when going out for the day. So they have the locks in the room, or hotels, or if you're staying in a hostel, they have those as well. And again, we've already said this. Let somebody know where you're staying. Just very, very simple things that you can do to make your trip a lot safer. So during the evening time, let's talk about that. Tell me, as a solo traveler, what do you all do in the evening time if you are solo by yourself? So when you are flying into a destination, try to make sure that your destination is in the morning or the afternoon. This second tip, everybody already knows it, but we'll already reiterate it. Never put your drink down at a bar. And I would say if a guy comes up to me like, hey, I want to buy you a drink, I want to go to the bar with them. Like, I don't necessarily want them to get it and bring it into me, because just that quick of a second, they can slip anything in there. So another thing that I love, like when I stay in hostels, I'll join a nighttime group activity. So like they'll be like, oh, there's a pub crawl or there's this. And so that's a great way to meet people and actually be able to go out at nighttime. And so even if I'm not doing like a whole group, I'll meet somebody on my tour in the daytime and I'm like, hey girl, what are you doing tonight? Let's go out. And so that's how I often hang out at night, because I usually found somebody from the daytime. Another thing is knowing your local number for police. We all know the local number for America's 911, but what is the local number for Europe? If you're from Europe or from anywhere else in the chat besides America, please tell me what would be your police code so we can take a look at that. Stash money in different places. I know probably guys can do this and some women may not be comfortable, but I stash right in my bra, y'all. I don't know how good or bad that is, but sometimes I do that. Or if you put it in your sock or different things like that, but just try to make sure that it's not all in one location. And make sure you trust your instincts. Like we all know when you get those little spidey, tingly fingers, like something may be going wrong. So just trust those instincts, okay? So ensure that you're insured. I think we already kind of touched on this but checking to see what your credit card offers. They may offer different things. So with the Chase Sapphire, I was in Morocco, my flight was delayed, my stuff never made it to Spain. So once I was able to get back home, I was able to use that travel insurance to get reimbursed for those things that I bought while my luggage wasn't around. So make sure you look at those things. And even if your credit card doesn't have it, you always want to get like medical insurance. So there's companies like Alliance, Safety Wing, but there's so many, they offer different things. So I definitely would say pick like a good 4 to research and see what is best for your trip when you go. Okay. So travel solo but not alone. So this is, I think, is something people always say, but it's not true. People think, okay, if you go solo, I'm not going to meet anybody. I kid you not, y'all. I meet so many wonderful people. And actually, I meet more people when I'm by myself. So let me know. Tell me about a memory when you met someone while you were traveling solo that was memorable. Sometimes you remain friends and sometimes you might, but in that moment, it was such a good experience that you're like, yeah, I can go solo. So stay in hostels if that's your thing. I love hostels. I understand some people in this call may not like hostels. So let me know, do you like hostels or are you a little afraid of hostels? I say don't watch the movie Hostel, because then people like, I'm like, it's a movie, y'all. Like, that doesn't mean that it's gonna happen. So if you're scared of hostels, don't watch the movie, okay? So we kind of already mentioned this, but the Facebook groups, letting people know you're there to kind of meet up with them. There are apps like Bumble BFF. So let me know if you ever use like Tinder or Bumble to meet up with people. And I'm not just talking about relationship, but like, hey, meet up with a local so they can show you the best coffee shop or the best food. Sometimes that doesn't always happen. Maybe for someone that hasn't went, but a local, they can always tell you the good spots. Okay. Use couch surfing, different things like that, where you're actually meeting up with people, but you would be able to sleep on their couch. That's a great way to meet people. There's a big thing called Meetup where you can look at things. There's Facebook events. And like we already mentioned before, there's day trips and activities that you can go on as well. And don't forget about Instagram to meet up with people. So social media safety, I am a influencer. I know people don't like that word, but I am. And so talking about social media safety, I don't necessarily post in real time. I may post like, hey, I'm flying to LA, I'm flying to Texas, whatever the case is, but I really don't post much while I'm there. One, because I'm trying to enjoy. And the other thing is because I want to be focused where I'm at. I don't want to be updating social media all the time. So a lot of times people are like, Tiffany, I don't know where you're at because I don't know where you're posting. I'm like, yes, that's great. That's exactly how I want it to be. I don't want you to know my every location, okay? So you don't have to post all your Instagram photos. Like, let's say you're in Tulum one day and then you go to Playa del Carmen another day. Maybe you post different days, or like I said, just wait until you get back. So those are just some social media safety tips for while you're actually traveling. And then in closing, solo travel is marvelous. Marvelous. It's just beautiful. Like I don't know how to say. I wish I knew how to say marvelous in another language. If you know how to say marvelous in another language, please let me know because I would love to say it. But what I say is literally just go. Those are two words. It seems very simple and like, okay, just go. But I say just go. Again, we already talked about it. To recap, there are going to be people telling you not to go. Yourself is going to tell you not to go. You may be nervous. There are going to be so many different things when you're planning. I heard people say, oh, I planned the trip, but I haven't hit the button to actually pay for anything because I'm so nervous. I'm so scared. I say sit in those feelings. It's okay to be nervous. It's okay to be scared. But we have to do stuff that sometimes makes us uncomfortable. But I guarantee you, when you get to your destination, you're going to have the time of your life. And if you are scared, for those people that never did, try to do a staycation. Try to do something in your own city. Go to the movies by yourself. Go to the beach by yourself, just to prepare yourself for being solo on your trip. Again, what are we saying? We are saying just go. Okay. And we already just kind of talked about this, attending the meetup, staying at a hostel in your city. These are just some of the small tips that you're going to take towards that solo trip. So this says, take the leap, even if you're afraid, you just might surprise yourself. Okay. So I hope you have enjoyed what you've heard thus far. So how can you connect with me? I hope you guys love this presentation enough to be like, hey, Tiffany, I really want to connect with you after this event. So my website is www.tiffany-travels.com. Save that website. The website is down, but we are working on getting it back up. But in other ways, we have a book called Hues of Africa, Journey Between the Lines. This is what the book looks like. It is literally those beautiful coloring activity pages. And this can be found on Amazon, and the link is there. So if you're on that long plane ride, this is great for that. You can follow me on Instagram at Sweet Tippies, or you can follow the book Hues of Africa on Instagram as well. And then make sure you check out that YouTube channel, Where in the Herd is Tiffany. Does anybody remember Where is Carmen Sandiego? Like, I played off of that. But anyway, I hope you enjoy this presentation. And Aaliyah, now I'm going to stop sharing. Let's go back here. And how do we say stop share? Okay. So Leah, I'm going to kick it back to you for a question and answer.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Tiffany. You packed so much great and valuable information in a condensed period of time. So for that, we thank you. And Tiffany will be available to answer all of your questions, especially if you connect with her on any of her social media networks or the website, whichever. I dropped all of her information in the chat. So go ahead, give her a follow, send her a note. She's super active on Instagram. I know that. So I actually met Tiffany at an event, a wonderful event, who's a partner of the Nomadic Network a few weeks ago. And then it happened that I was like, hey, I'm hosting you in a few weeks. So very coincidental, but I'm so happy that we've met in person because we both reside in LA. So let's get to some of these awesome questions. Victoria has one, and these are going to be kind of all over the place, like Spitfire, but you are ready to answer them, Tiffany. So Victoria wants to know, like, do you give someone your phone, like a stranger, to take photos of you? Because Victoria's kind of worried that they might run off of it. So what are your tips for that? Asking others to take pictures of you.
So that is hilarious because that crosses my mind all the time. Like, are they gonna steal my phone? So that's a good question. So I definitely give people my phone all the time. I look for like family people. If I see a mama, a daddy, and maybe like a kid, I know they're not gonna steal my phone. If it's I ain't gonna say older people, but yeah, I think that you just have to be comfortable with it enough. Or you also have your tripod. Take your tripod with you so you can take your own pictures. Set your phone on a timer, put your tripod up, and you are good to go. But yeah, that's mainly how I get pictures, is asking other people or doing the tripod. And you guys, what I did in Morocco, okay, I actually hired a photographer for the first time. Best decision ever. It was $20. The photos came out amazing, and now I have memories for a lifetime. So those are actually 3 options to get your photos taken.
I love that. Thank you so much. Super helpful. I also look for a family, because if they're like juggling kids, they're not going to try to like run away with your phone.
Really quickly, the other thing if you see somebody like getting angles of somebody else, they cool. They're probably not going to take your phone. So you just have to trust that it'll be okay. Or if you may not have, like, let's say maybe you have 2 phones, one where you taking photos and one where all your information. That way, if anything happens, but I've been traveling all over, and knock on wood, nobody's ever taken my phone.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, or you could like find someone with more expensive equipment than you, because then they're probably like, I don't need your measly little iPhone 10 or whatever it is. Okay, awesome. Thank you for that. That's good advice. So let me go back to, let's see. Kim wants to know, what were the Facebook pages that you recommended for solo travelers? Basically all those groups that you had mentioned, and any Facebook groups you could recommend.
So Girls Love Travel is a great one. Nomadic Travel is another one. And so these doesn't have to be specific for solo travelers. Like, these are any of the so literally, if you go on Facebook and you can type in solo women's groups or solo men's group or just solo travel in general, like, I'm kid you not, there's thousands of groups that will pop up. And so even if they're not specifically for solo travelers, you can also still get a wealth of information and take your solo trip.
100%. I agree. I even like literally Facebook, I use it as a search engine. So for example, I'm like, okay, I want to join a backpacking group in South America, which I'm part of. And I literally typed in backpacking South America, and there is a group that's backpacking South America. So you can just treat it as a search engine. Like you said, you'll find anything.
Absolutely.
So that's good to know. Okay. So Esther Marie has a question about, are there older people who open their homes to couch surfing? I would couch surf at grandma's house. What do you know about, basically tell us what you know about couch surfing or your experiences with it.
So I haven't, it's funny because I'm actually signed up on that and have been for years, but I haven't actually used it. But I still say I couch surf in my own way. Like, if there are people that I know, I'm like, hey, I'm coming into town, would you mind, like, if I slept on the couch or different things like that? So I'm pretty sure there may be older folks, but I'm positive on couch surfing there are probably more younger folks than anything. But I'm pretty sure there may be a gym where there are older people that are doing couch surfing. But that would be a great idea. I don't know how old you are, but that would be something lovely to start. I feel like if it's not out there, then that's a great way. Because I would, like you said, I would love to go to grandma's house. Grandma probably can cook. She got some stories for me. So yeah, I definitely think that they're probably out there, but probably may take a little bit searching to find them.
Yeah. And usually couch surfing has changed a lot, I believe, since the last time I used it, which is like 2016.
Okay.
So I think if anyone has any recent experiences with couch surfing, we'd love to see them in the chat if you want to drop in like a little story or recent experiences.
And I've also opened up, people have came and slept on my couch before.
That's so
So
nice
a
of
lot of times
you.
they're unofficial as well. So yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's like a community of trust, like you give back to other travelers. So it's always awesome to be a part of that. So that's cool. All right. Tatiana wants to know advice for posting on social media when you want to get tips on what to do or see if anyone may be in the area that you're about to travel to without divulging too much of your information. What's a safe amount to share?
So like I mentioned before, if you are going to Medellin, Colombia, I would literally start looking up like, hey, things to do, where to go, food to eat. So you can share the information there. You can share the information about Medellin. There's so many different I want like neighborhoods, right? So you don't have to say I'm staying in Lorales, Medellin, but you can say what is there to do in Medellin, and then there'll probably be something that's close to you. So, without sharing your exact hotel, without sharing of those anything, get a very broad aspect of it, and then you get to choose of those things that is near you. And the same thing for the Facebook group. And I feel safer in the Facebook groups sometimes than Instagram, because Instagram you may not know people, but if I'm seeing these people post all the time, I feel very comfortable saying I'm going to be in California from March 5th through March 7th. I'm going to be in LA. LA is huge. We live in California. So that's still a very broad term. So be broad without being super specific.
Mm-hmm. That's a really great tip. And one thing that I started doing, but not only because of safety, but because of time, is that I don't even post in real time anymore because I feel like I can't keep up with my own life online. I'm like, I just go back from New Orleans like 10 days ago and I'm still posting about New Orleans. So people think I'm there, but I'm not. So it's kind of,
I went to Colombia 6 months ago and I'm still posting content, but that's a whole nother video because content creation, and when you're not traveling, you still need content. So we know how to stretch out content. People ask me all the time, oh, Tiffany, I thought you were on a trip. And I'm like, no, I'm here in LA.
Or like I'm heading to San Francisco this week and I'm still going to be posting about New Orleans.
New Orleans, right.
People are like, where are you? I'm like, I'm in California. Where are you?
Exactly.
Yeah. So I think not posting in real time, but being broad, super, super helpful. And a lot of these, never really divulging where exactly you're staying, not even the neighborhood. That's good. Like you don't have to say I'm in Laureles, like you said. I just be like, I'm in Colombia. Who's been to Medellin?
Right. Exactly.
So awesome. Okay. Are there any other questions in the chat? Go ahead and keep dropping them in the chat. Let me see if I can think of a question. I had some. Were there
I was
any?
going to say Eva.
Oh, yeah.
I was going to say Eva said there is house sitting platforms, exchange house pet care for accommodation. Yes, this is very true. I know somebody, her name is Stephanie Perry. If you guys would like to follow her, she talks all about house sitting. And so for house sit, she's watching the dog, watching a fish, watching whatever. It's mainly a lot of dogs, but that's a great way to travel as well. Because you're getting free accommodation in exchange for walking the dog. Like you still get a chance to do what you want, long as you take care of like the dog and different things first. Mm-hmm. So that's actually, I'm glad that you mentioned that. Yes, they all types of animals, cats, dogs, probably anything that you can think of that somebody has a pet, is a snake, or whatever the case is. Like they need somebody there to help them.
I'd be more cautious about it. I couldn't take care of a snake, but kudos to those.
Me neither. I'm feeling you. I'm understanding. Julie says, how do you work and volunteer doing travel to fund your trips? So it's funny because I was laid off. I told you my background is in social work. So I was laid off 4 years ago. Yeah, I haven't been back to work yet. But so when I first got laid off, I actually volunteered in the Virgin Islands with All Hands and Heart. So that's actually a great place to volunteer. They had free transportation, which means flights. I don't know if they're doing the flights, but even if they do flights, once you get to your destination, they provide food, which I think was breakfast and lunch. And they also provide a place to stay. And in return, you're volunteering to rebuild these homes. And so the Virgin Islands, there was a big hurricane that had hit. So that's one way that I stayed in Virgin Islands for 2 weeks. And then in that organization, people actually stayed on longer for months, and they end up actually just being hired by the company. So that's a good way to do it. Another one is I went to Spain to volunteer to teach English. It was a program called Diverbo. you had to get your flight there, but once you were there, 3 meals. And if anybody's been to Spain, like they feed you very, very well. Okay. So I thought I lost weight in Morocco. I gained it back in Spain at this program because they just fed us so much. But that it was a beautiful accommodation. It's totally different from All Hands on Hearts. They were working us. Spain was more chill and relaxed, but it was teaching English. So I find free programs where I can travel where it's low and cost effective. And that is the way that I'm able to volunteer. And then in terms of work, I'm not doing social work right now. So my side hustles, I'm an author of a travel book. I have consultations. So there are things that I'm an influencer. So, you get paid to post on Instagram. So those are things that I've done transitioning into the travel world to fund my travels.
Awesome. And then with the volunteer opportunities, I'm dropping your information again in the chat. Did you just Google them or did you hear them through word of mouth or friends have done them before?
Actually, I told you I was addicted to Facebook during my presentation, so I found them on Facebook. So somebody posted about those opportunities. I'm like, well, let me look more into it. When I came back, I did the same thing. For All Hands and Hearts, I had so many women sign up after I came back because I'm like, y'all should do it. It's like cool. And the people that you met are just wonderful. So
yeah,
that's how we found that.
That's awesome. I feel like with Facebook, like people think it's a dying platform, but Facebook groups is life for me. Like I get so many advice and tips from Facebook groups. Like I use it solely for the group's function, to be honest.
Exactly. Elena, you want to?
Yeah. Let's see. Alana here says when, oh yeah,
okay,
go ahead. Oh, I'll read it for you. When you travel through Africa, how far out do you create an itinerary and what's the longest you've spent traveling away from home?
So the longest I spent in Ghana was 2 months. And creating my itinerary. It's funny because I feel like some people could plan like a year in advance. I can't do that. Like I just don't know where my life, honestly, it is March 22nd, 2022. I don't know where I'm going to be in March 22nd of 2023. So I honestly do not plan out that long. I say a good 6 months because sometimes flights may be cheaper, but I don't plan super, super far in advance for a trip, even for something like Africa for 2 months. Actually, if you're staying there for 2 months, you're not planning everything up front. You're like the first 2 weeks I'll plan and then we'll see where the wind takes me while I'm there. So I feel like the longer you stay, the less you have to plan in the beginning. But you do want to have a foundation, at least a week or two if you're staying for a month. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was just saying in the chat, I feel like pre-2020, it was so different. Like we could dream about a year out. But to be honest, the past 2 years, and I'm a planner, but past 2 years, I haven't been planning more than 4 weeks out.
Right, exactly.
I'll be like, okay, I don't know where I'm going this year. I don't know where I'm going after May. After May, I don't know what I'm doing. So if anyone wants to invite me on a trip, let's go. Let's do it.
Yeah, and Elena asked about Africa. So we've taken group trips to Ghana as well. So if you guys are ever interested in group trips, please follow me so that you'll be abreast. Or if there's a trip that you're like, hey, I'm interested in going, we'll see. Because I usually like to plan trips where I've been already. So let's see where that goes if you guys have any questions about that.
All right. Ooh, we got some good questions now. Okay, EH, this is important. Do you have medical, healthcare, and/or travel insurance? What travel insurance do you usually purchase and for how long?
So yes, I have medical healthcare here in the States, but a lot of times that doesn't translate to being abroad. So you do have to purchase additional travel insurance just for that medical portion of it. And I highly recommend it. Like I have never gotten sick abroad. Well, not enough to like, maybe your tummy is bubbly. I've gotten those, but not enough to where I couldn't get on the plane. So even though it's like you're having car insurance, even though nothing may ever happen, you always want to have that just as a precaution. And especially during COVID. I caught COVID while I was traveling in Colombia. And so those are the reasons why you may need travel insurance, because you may need to stay longer, different things like that. So definitely make sure you're getting that travel insurance. And so you can also purchase travel insurance for shorter trips or longer trips. If you know you're going to be traveling all year long, just get an annual annual plan. You don't have to do something for every trip. You can do both. So it's really up to you. That's why I say definitely do the research about which one is going to be the best for you. And some of them are a little wonky too because it's the pandemic as well. So make sure you're reading those fine lines. Like, is it covering pandemic situations? Like, I would read all of those different things. But that was a good question, EH.
Yeah. Do you have I recently started using Safety Wing, which is cost as low as $1 per day. Sometimes I double up on insurances just in case one policy doesn't cover another. So sometimes I'll do World Nomads plus Safety Wing. Are there companies that you routinely go back to, Tiffany, when it comes to travel insurance, or any that you personally use that you've liked?
Alliance, that's like one of the most popular ones that a lot of people use. And that's funny you said doubling up on insurance. I do want to put the plug about insurance. Remember that insurance does not happen really until you return home. So you may have to have that extra. Again, when I caught COVID in Colombia, I had to stay an extra week or so. So even with my travel insurance, just know you do have to a lot of times sometimes have that money up front. Just depending on what the situation is, you may not be able to do it until you get home. So also remembering that when you're traveling as well.
Yeah, which is tough because you think a lot of people think insurance, it's like, oh, it covers me immediately. It's like, no, that's not how it works. You have to submit everything and get reimbursed.
And that can take weeks. Like, just be careful. Like, I do want to point that out too, because some people think, automatic is like, nope, not automatically.
Right. That's good to know. All right. Eva also has a question about Spain recommendations since you've been. Any tips for train tours or experiences?
I did not go. So the funny part about Spain, I was really there for that volunteer opportunity, and they had us like in a remote little small city. So I didn't get a chance to explore as much as I would, but I would definitely say I love to take cooking classes wherever I go. Spain is known for like their pastas and different things like that. And I would say go to like the little smaller cities around. And also, I know she's asking about Spain, but there's always neighboring countries like Portugal, Morocco, and different things like that. So also go to those other little places. And it's so cheap and inexpensive to go to those places as well. So those are just a couple things that I would do for Spain. And I can't remember. It's I also create itineraries for people. So people are asking about itineraries. I just created a Medellin itinerary for people. So if you guys are interested in that service as well, please let me know. But I do create specialized itineraries. So if you say, hey, I want to go to Spain for 5 days, you tell me what you want, I will create that guide for you. And I'm doing the work for you, doing all the research that I told you guys to do before. But yeah, that was a good question.
Yeah, definitely. I love that you create itineraries. Super helpful. Bree wants to know if you have recommendations for navigating travel in locations where you don't speak the language.
So funny as well. These are all good questions. So Google Translate, the offline version, is your friend. So I grew up in LA where people speak Spanish, so I can understand Spanish. I can understand most of it. I can't speak it though. So when I can say little words, and I'd be so proud of myself because I'm like, oh, I think I know more than what I thought I did when I'm traveling where they speak Spanish. But I kid you not, Google Translate has helped me out in so many different instances. So I trust and believe like the Google Translate will definitely work. And I say also learn like a couple phrases before you go. So the basic, how do I get to this? Hi, thank you. Where is this location? Like those basic phrases, I kid you not, will get you very far as well. But don't be afraid. Don't say, oh, I can't travel to a French speaking country because I don't speak French. There may be somebody there. But it was funny. I went to Burkina Faso, which is in Africa. They speak French. And so I assume like there's going to be somebody at this hotel that speak English. Yeah, not really. So I'm like ordering food. I think I literally ordered a hamburger and fries, and it was a whole ordeal getting that because they thought I told them something. So then they brought the hamburger and fries. They left something off. They brought it back. They took the patty off, but had the fries in beneath the bread. It was hilarious, but it wasn't until the owner came who spoke English that we finally got the order right. But I say all that to say, like, your phone has pictures on it. You can also bring up pictures like, this is what I want. So there are different ways to get around that. So definitely go or hire a guide. So the guides usually speak what language that we're coming from. So they'll speak English. So that's another good way. Hire a guide.
Okay. All right. I love Google Translate offline. I also would eat a French fry sandwich, to be honest. So I'd
You're
be
like,
like, that's okay. Take the patty. I'll eat the French fry.
but I was like, wait, what happened to my patty? It was just there 5 minutes ago. Where did it go? So that was hilarious.
I'd be like, okay. I'd be like, it's like a California burrito, right?
Right.
With French fries in it. Oh my goodness. Okay, this is another great one from EH. We'll have this as the last question. And then if you have any other questions for Tiffany, go ahead and reach out to her on any of her social media networks. I've dropped her info in the chat a few times. So EH says, I have Sprint/T-Mobile, not sure if it works internationally. Would I be able to purchase a SIM card from each country? What phone provider do you use? Any tips? How do you manage the internet, Wi-Fi, etc.?
So I have AT&T, which I actually think T-Mobile is probably better for international travel because they actually come with Wi-Fi sometimes. So AT&T has a plan where it's $10 a day. Absolutely ridiculous. I don't ever use it because if I'm gone for 2 months, like that's on top of your bill. So I definitely recommend T-Mobile if you can get T-Mobile to get that Wi-Fi. And then in terms of the SIM card, so I was about to show you, but the phone is over there. But I buy a separate phone. So like I bought a phone in Ghana and I can change the SIM card.
Yeah.
And so in that SIM card, you will have the data and different things like that so that you're able to do whatever you need to do on your smartphone. So SIM cards, ask a local person, hey, they know, like even if you point to this, they know without even saying what you need. They know it's a SIM card. So definitely do it that way in terms of, and the phone, you can buy like a $25 phone from Amazon to take with you on your trips, or you can buy it in your location while you're there. And then of course, a lot people are so up to speed on Wi-Fi. A lot of places have Wi-Fi in their location. The first thing, I know that's probably bad. The first thing, if I'm at a restaurant, I'll be like, Wi-Fi, because they say Wi-Fi. I say Wi-Fi, right? So I'll ask them and they already know what we're talking about. So a lot of places have Wi-Fi, but if you just want to make sure that you have it, then go ahead and download that SIM. Or they have, oh my God, I forgot the company now. It was called Roaming something, but you can actually buy the things where you can take it along with you that has Wi-Fi. So there's a lot of different things. There's a lot of different things that you can do as well. Lee, I know that was our last question, but I think there was a question before EH really quickly that I want to answer. It was from Esther Marie. She says, I plan to go to 2 towns in Italy for, where did it go? Do you see? I feel like I moved.
2 towns in Italy for 1 to 3 months. Should I book a room ahead for the entire time or chance finding something when I'm there after 2 weeks booked?
Yeah, so you can, so I honestly, so it can go either way. I do say your first 2 weeks have a place to stay, because in that particular time you can actually go around and see, oh, okay, well, I really like this neighborhood, I really like that neighborhood, or you may meet somebody and they be like, oh, this is a neighborhood that I recommend. Because as a solo travel, things change all the time. Like I went to Thailand one year and I didn't have a excursion for the day, and somebody on another group tour that I was on told me about this one. Best tour that I went on in Thailand, and that was not booked in advance. We got a chance to go on the canoes, and it was the food was so fresh. Like it was, and I can't swim, y'all. Don't be like me. Please take swimming lessons. That's a side note. But the point is, what I'm saying is you may find something really, really awesome like when you get there. But at least have a foundation. I don't understand how people get to a destination. They're like, oh, I'm looking for a room when I land. No. I can't do that. I need to be like a little bit comfortable with what I'm doing. So yeah, I recommend at least the first 2 weeks and then kind of going from there. Or you could book in advance, but just like, what if something happened? Or what if you want to go to a different destination? That's just my opinion. You can do it however, but yeah.
I love that. Well, to mitigate that, I usually, because I leave a lot of room, as I'm sure you do, Tiffany, for plans to change. So I always book at least one night. And then if, for example, like Bangkok, I was like, all right, one night, I'll stay in Bangkok one night. And then I wanted to leave. So I did, but I canceled the rest of the nights at the hostel, not without penalty, of course, but I only booked a $12 a night hostel. So to me, $12 wasn't that big of a loss. I was like, that's fine. Keep the money. I'll go. And then for SIM cards, my rule personally is that I don't have a plan that can go overseas. But my rule is that if I'm staying somewhere for 3 weeks or longer, I will get a local SIM card. Other than that, I'm like fine to operate off Wi-Fi for 2 weeks. Just to like mitigate costs and whatnot too. Like in the Philippines, when I was paying per week for a few gigs, it was like $5 a week. So for data, which is, so why is that like a third of the price of that I'm paying here in the US? I don't understand.
every time I pay rent in America, in LA, I'm like, I'm moving to Mexico. So yeah, cost is everything. Cost is just way more expensive here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think a lot of us, Tiffany, we're just experts at being like, what's the password? What's the Wi-Fi? I'm like a Wi-Fi hunter. I'm like, okay, where can I connect?
Exactly.
Awesome.
But I would say, if you love being connected, you've been to Cuba before?
I haven't. I know there are a few people that have been in the chat.
Okay, no, I was gonna say, because Cuba, you have to be unconnected. Like, you literally have to get like a card to call people, which was great because it allows us to disconnect. But I just thought of it like Cuba is one of those places where you're disconnecting, like hands down.
That's what I've heard. Yeah, I know there are some people in here that have been to Cuba, so that's interesting. I got to get there soon. All right. Well, thank you so much, Tiffany. This has been so incredible. Thank you, everyone, for all of your questions and being here and spending an hour of your day